me actually see how off it is. Well, hello. This is Happy Valley Hobbies, and these are hobbies that make me happy. Uh, I'm starting to think that you know, doing um, doing this particular time slot is just not up for me. I don't know, what the new schedule uh, will be, but right now I'm uh, kind of taking a I wouldn't say a break, but more of a rethinking on what's what I'm doing. Uh, I have found out that I want to say I've gotten to the point where uh, I am, you know, thinking about what pretty much what to do on this specific not just the channel, but what pretty much what I'm doing. Um, I'm finding out that for some odd reason I actually find it very hard to sort of kind of schedule ahead of time this particular time slot. Don't know why. It just seems that I keep on forgetting to turn around and saying, "Hey, I'm here," or scheduling ahead of time, which is not fair to ones who like watching what I do, and not letting it, and also not letting people know what's going on. I would have this. One thing I am thinking is, abandoning. I want to say abandoning the unofficial, unauthorized, pre-show of a different show, and just pretty much do, go off on my own and go that direction. I'm still not. I still don't quite know what schedule to pick at this point. I am contemplating, which a lot of people won't be able to be live for, but I work second shifts, so having the live stream during the day, where unfortunately a lot of people are at work, that would be pretty much require people watching this on a playback instead of live. But it is what it is. So I haven't figured out exactly what the new schedule is, but I'll do my best to keep this one at this point. But at the same time, don't really expect the 8:45 to 9:45 slot to be to be consistent, because I haven't been consistent. So I mean, when I was doing it Sunday night, it was even though there was times I wanted to be someplace else, I was here, and that's why I wanted to change the schedule. But I have found out that I'm no longer a morning person. I used to, be one of the when I worked a normal shift. It's like the alarm went off, boom, I was ready to go. Now, it's almost been a year being on second shift. I have a hard time getting my carcass up in the morning, unless something else is planned, that I'm either going to see somebody, or there's external forces that are saying, "Hey, you need to do something." Then I sort of work back normal and all that. But if I'm relying on myself, not so much. So that's why I'm contemplating on trying to find a different schedule that would be new airbrush project. Well, hello there, Anfield. Thank you for coming in. As I'm saying, it's like I'm realizing that this particular time slot that I picked, it's not really working out for me. So, but I am thinking of maybe doing something maybe during the weekday, which is possibly more in line with the British folk that like Anfield as a better time to keep watch, because that's I think one of the concerns with my British viewers is that the old time slot on Sunday night, it was getting I think around midnight when I was broadcasting. Wait, yeah. StreamYard has changed some stuff, and I haven't really played around with them much. I just have to realize that for pretty much since I've been doing this, I've been using the 30-second intro. Apparently they've added more. So if you see the intro if you go back and see the intro on this, it's the 60-second one with a lot more things moving around and all. Did not know I could turn around and add stuff and all that. I just happened to trying to get things working properly, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is an option. Okay, we'll try it. I haven't looked at all the different options. I just saw that because sometimes I would think that 30-second one was a little too short. The 1-minute one might be too long. But I did not look at it close enough to see if there was like a 45, which might be a better way of doing it. But for those who are listening, like Anfield, as the title says, now it's sound. And that is because I have recently bought my first DCC locomotive that has sound in it. For a while there, I was sort of boycotting Bachmann equipment because of what they wound up doing, maybe 10 years ago? I'm not quite sure. It was one of those things of where the Chinese government decided, all the, any of the foreign hobby competition that wasn't owned by China had to go out and get kicked out and had to find other places to make their stuff. And if I remember correctly, there was a shortage of trackage because you couldn't buy Atlas track, you couldn't buy Lionel, insert whatever was not Bachmann. So Bachmann Easy Track was the only thing you could buy because Bachmann is now owned by a Chinese corporation, and they were able to keep on making stuff because they didn't get kicked out of China. I don't know the full details of it, so I was working at a hobby shop at the time, and that's how I knew that. But yeah, it's basically I just happened to realize that I think if it's already in the store, it's already been bought. The money has already gone to Bachman. So, and I wanted to support local hobby shops and all that, so I turned around and bought it at Hobby World in Western Massachusetts. And things that came with this quick starter guide, which I guess was for all their steam engines. There's some things I do have to change stuff on. One funny thing is that you turn on the headlight, the dynamo comes on, but this is Central Pacific Jupiter number 60, I think. It's known by Jupiter, not by its numbers, so it's not like the UP 911, which is the other locomotive that is, in the famous picture. And I wound up picking the Jupiter mainly because of it was the prototype was the Schenectady Locomotive Works, and I lived very close to Schenectady when growing. Well, technically, it's still less than an hour. It's about an hour away from where I'm living now. Hour and a half maybe. But I mean, it's you can actually drive to it. During the Alco celebration in 2001, which was before September 11th. Actually, somewhere I actually got one of the centerpieces that they had at the dinner afterwards, which consisted of a fake railroad tie, which was designed to make it look like it was all creosoted and not really not new, with a railroad spike and an actual section of rail that was cut from a line that was obviously wasn't used. A lot of the portions of the plant were not being used at this time. Especially, I don't even think it was rail served at this time. So any of the rail was sort of like, ooh, we can turn around and chop up this one length of rail. So I got one of those. They also put I got to figure out what the flower is, but they actually had a small little vase where they put a flower that would normally be sort of a wildflower, but I'm not quite sure what the name of it is. But I think they make plastic versions of it. So if I ever find it again, I can turn around, show it, and then put a fake flower in there, and then go from there. And because it's a piece of rail, which is only about maybe that long. I mean, it's made out of rail, so it's heavy. But yeah, that was an interesting setup. There was also a rail fan during the celebration. There was the rail fan trip with on the Battenkill, where they wound up. They had a couple of RS3s. So they got the setup on that. There's something that I saw under media. Let's see. Okay. This is one thing that I've just, playing around with this morning and all that. Didn't really realize that overlay to that. Yeah. But one of the things I did find out that you can do with StreamYard is add sounds. Okay, yeah. But but because of okay, we got that. But because of yeah, that's another thing is I don't think I quite function as well in the morning as I than I used to, because working second shift, I've been sleeping in a lot, so it winds up being that I'm no longer a morning person, and hence I'm not doing as well, I guess. I don't know, but I am thinking on changing the schedule. I don't know what it is yet. I'm just going to try different things, but I want to say I'll try to keep this schedule, but yeah. This is this specific schedule right now I thought would be great, but not so much. All right. Normally, I would transfer over to this view. As you can see, that's the new locomotive I got, but it's obviously the top-down version, where you can't really see the locomotive that much. So we're going to go to this camera, which is not the best view, but it's like better than the top view, I guess. So let's switch over. Good thing about this particular camera, I can switch over and moving the blue screen. It doesn't really cause that much of an issue. Whereas the other camera is basically attached to it, so that's why it bounces. But all right, don't have that much room here. It's a better look. Not perfect, but there's the Bachmann Jibber. It's what they call the new tooling, which I on Discord, and I sort of chuckle at it because of I got several different of these the older quote old tooling, but it's one of those things that are going like they've changed the tooling over the years. They're not all the same. But one of the things is turning on the light. Actually, should actually turn on the power. And Oh, that's gonna be annoying. But as you can hear the air pump go on, which the prototype did not have an air pump. This was before air brakes was considered part of the regulation. And again, also long before knuckle was also so they're not, it's not fully accurate. For one thing, by turning on the light, I'm not quite sure if you can hear the spool up of the dynamo, which again also is out of not quite accurate. So that's some of the things that are, some of the things I need to figure out how to shut both of those off for this particular prototype. The air pump and the dynamo. But as you heard with run backwards, switch it up to, and then when you go from forward to reverse, you hear the Johnson bar moving. Now, one thing I don't like about this is that you notice that it's sort of waddling along. And that is basically because of the traction towers. So one thing I'm going to see about doing is figuring out, can I take the traction tires off? Or is that going to actually change the characteristics of I know it's with the Mantua, the traction tires are actually in a groove, so that doesn't work. But for some reason, looking at the parts for this, for the parts menu, I forgot what it's called. Parts list. It shows that all the drivers are all exactly the same. So I do not know if don't know if I could take the traction tires or taking the tires off will get rid of the wobble, but I don't know if that winds up adding more a lot more destabilization. But yeah, it's obviously the different sounds that we have. Well, if you hit 8, obviously it turns off the sound. 2 was the whistle. 3 is a short whistle. Number 1 is the bell. 4 is, I want to say, blow down. Not sure if 5 does anything. 5 does a clunk that I'm not quite sure what it is. And it sort of goes with 6. There's another clunk with that. So 5 clunks it one way and 6 clicks it another. 7, I believe, does nothing. Or if it does something, it not sure if it dims the light or not. But 9 is the very familiar. I guess so you don't have to go between buttons 2 and 3. You just hit 9 and it automatically does the crossing whistle. Now the thing is that early railroading things were not as unified as they are now. So what we know now as the two shorts, long and short, as being a railway crossing, that was not universal. That was it eventually became universal. So other railroads had their own signals, which in some cases was I would assume be a good thing. I mean, because different railroads I think had different whistles, so they were able to figure out, like, oh, okay, that signal is for a different railroad, so we can ignore it, or be able to identify the railroad or the individual locomotives also. And what my plan is to have three styles of whistles, specifically using for passenger locomotives using 3 chime. It's like 1876, I think 3 chime might be a thing at that point. I have to look into it more, but freight would be 2 chime, and then switchers or shunters would be a single chime. That's what my plan is for that. I do not know if this whistle on this locomotive is the same one that's on the reproduction Jupiter up in Promontory Point. I want to say promissory, so no, that's not right. Yeah, the interesting thing is that they were doing their best to get it done quick as possible and all that, and that's where they found Promontory Point was the quickest way to connect everything. But both railroads have to realize that no, this is that particular area is not a good. The grades were too massive, I think, for that. So they found a more circular route, but it was less of a grade, so it wasn't as much of a challenge. And then as soon as that new line was put in, they abandoned Promontory Point. But now that's why it's a national park, because they ripped everything up and said, all right, well, we don't need this anymore. It would be sort of kind of interesting to do a diorama of the famous photograph with all the people and all that. But the main difference is that usually they just have the 2 locomotives, but if you look at some of the pictures, that are not that famous that famous photograph, you will actually notice that the trains were actually had cars behind them, different passenger cars, not the locomotive and cars that they wanted. It was just basically okay. There was 2 one, I think, from what I understand, a bridgehead gotten to the point where the locomotive couldn't go across on the UP side, and I forgot what number that was. It was another locomotive. I'm going to be probably wrong on this. Oh, hello there, Wigwag. Thank you for coming in. And John, hello, and Randall. I'm showing off something that I wound up buying recently. Hence the title says "Now It's Sound," because this is my first DCC locomotive that has sound on it. And so basically, playing around with the different stuff that this has. Ooh. So, as I was mentioning earlier, that this particular new schedule on Saturday morning is just seems to be not really working for me. I don't know what I'll be doing. It's something I got to figure out. And so right now, probably things will be a lot more random of what my schedule is at this point. And because I, don't know what to do. Don't know really what to do. I'm finding it hard to actually pre-scheduling everything. So that's why things wind up ooh. Now where yeah, hey Randall, you wouldn't have to know where the sand is going. Because usually when I think of sand, I'm thinking, sand for the tractive effort and all that. But if it's a whole train, I'm assuming it's not for the railroad. Because I would assume one sand car can turn around and maybe be a maybe a month's worth at a sanding facility. I don't know. I do not know that specific detail. Originates out of Arkansas. Oh. And so I would have to say, to be a little bit more frank right now, is that the diorama itself, I'm sort of burnt out on it, so I am contemplating on maybe putting that aside for a while and work on a building or two. I do have a lot of projects that are another thing that I wound up buying along with the locomotive is the Highway Miniatures standard delivery wagon. So I think I already have one, but modeling 1876 wagons and horses are a thing to have. Now the interesting thing is that I could probably also get away with using Wild Wild West figures because it is the same time period. A lot of people think that the Wild West and Victorian era for the British timeline. Not many people realize that it's sort of the same timeline. Maybe because they seem to be they seem to be different genres, but they're at the same time frame. It's just that they're different parts of the country. But I gotta turn off the headlight because it's a little bit quieter, and not only that, they also didn't, a lot of times they would actually have it so the headlight would be on all the time, and it's like, no, that's, oil was expensive and they weren't that bright, so steam engines, normally did not run with their headlights on. That's more of a very modern thing. Oh, okay. Ooh. Yeah, brakes not engaging is usually not a good thing. Oh, I forgot which. I think it was Train of Thought just did like a movie review on Runaway or Unstoppable, which was the very Hollywoodized variation of the Crazy Eights incident, where I forgot the details, but there was some reason why they had to, in order to have the dynamic brakes on, the locomotive had to be at full throttle, and when the engineer got off the locomotive to change the switch and all that, and he tried to get back on, he couldn't get back on. It's like, oops. And he turned around and find out all the inaccuracies, and which I guess the guy who runs that channel was surprised on how inaccurate it was, because he went all into this research to making sure that it was done right. Hiring experts and all that, and it's like some of the things were glaringly obvious, and then there's some that are very subtle. Subtle ones would be like them using cell phones. It's like federal law says you can't have a cell phone within a certain amount of distance of the track. So it's like no. But to the average person, they wouldn't know that. I'm not quite sure when that was implemented, because when I worked for Sperry Rail Service, I don't remember that being a thing. And I forgot where I remember. I forgot where I remember hearing where it was a thing. Yeah, pretty much. Stopping is, in some cases, more important than going. If it can't go, it's not going to destroy anything. But if it winds up, if it can't stop, that can cause issues. But one of the obvious things is that I guess during the big thing during the movie, there was they had to go around a corner, and it was a corner that would have turned around and caused the locomotive, caused the train to flip over. And apparently they slowed it down enough that basically it wound up going around a corner, and all of a sudden, it's like it's, going on two wheels on its side. It's like, and then finally, after the turn, goes back down again. And they're saying it's like, yeah, if the wheels ever went up like that, because the wheels are conical, not cylindrical, Plus you also can't. Plus you can't steer. I mean, if you see them where you see a car on its two wheels on the side and all that, you'll notice that it's sort of like constantly hunting. It's not going in a straight line. But well, I mean, sometimes you gotta look at Hollywood train movies and look at it as a uh, one of the Claude Van Damme movies. I forgot which one it was. I remember it was the second of whatever series he was doing. And I think the first one had to do with the ocean liner, and then this one was a train, and it was basically doing the. There were just some things that they got. I remember there was this one situation where it shows the front end of the locomotive, and it winds up hitting a whole bunch of torpedoes. And, no, actually, wait a second. It was at a couple that were going hot and heavy with each other. They go to the front of the then it shows it goes to the front of the locomotive. It hits the torpedoes, goes back to the couple. And the guy turns around and says, "What the hell was that shit?" And the woman replied, "It's called an orgasm." I think I was the only one in the theater that laughed because I knew exactly what was going on. Everyone else was like, that made no sense. They didn't know that that the train ran over torpedoes to signal that, hey, you need to stop. But since I knew exactly, since seeing the people going at each other, and then the front of the locomotive is like so it's like, why did they do that? And then it's like, what was that? It's like, it's called an orgasm. It's just I just lost it. It was so funny. And there's also things that towards the end of the movie they had a locomotive telescoping into a railroad car, and I'm like, that's been sold for at least 50 years. Telescoping, maybe 75 years, because it was basically steel cars, as far as I know, never really telescoped into each other. It was normally the wooden cars. But it's like usually when it comes to an action movie, sometimes the reality gets bent a little bit for the drama. But this is sort of the new toy that I have. And one of the, if you press 9, nice way to actually press 9. Got an automatic crossing signal. And you got the individual ones. 3 is the short one, 2 is the longer one. Then you got the bell. And 5 and 6, I'm not. If 5 does this, which is like a clunk, but then it won't unclick until you hit 6, which makes another clunk. But that doesn't do anything until you hit 5. So 5 and 6 are supposed. I don't know if it's supposed to be. It's not coupling. But and 5 does I want to say blowdown. 8 turns it off. 7 does nothing, and 9 does the crossing one. But this is my first sound DCC. I've installed DCC decoders before. I got a bunch of them, but this is the first one that has sound, and It's been a while that I've paid that much for a locomotive. The last time I paid this much for a locomotive was a brass engine. But it was a Nickel Plate Products K62, Delaware Hudson K62, which, from what I understand, Nickel Plate Products they did beautiful static models. The models themselves just were not. They had to be heavily modified in order to get them to work properly. Wound up giving that locomotive to Irish Trains because I just could not get it work, and that's the 1950s era, 1940s, 1940s mostly. And I wasn't modeling that anymore. I was, going for smaller engines and all that. So I gave that to him. I says, like, this is what it is, but don't get too excited. It's a piece of junk. Use it as a practice engine. Because every time I ran it, it wound up getting worse and worse. But yeah, I gotta dig into the sound the sound CVs on this to turn around and do what needs to be done. As a newer toy. It's chugging a little bit, not really too fast. There we go. But eagle-eye viewers will notice that it is sort of bobbling back and forth. And that's because of the rubber traction tires. I'm going to see if I can take the rubber traction tires off. The parts list shows the drivers are all the same. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to work if I take the traction tires off. Because I know with the Mantua ones, the traction tire that is actually has an actual groove in the tire, so it doesn't. You sort of have to have the rubber tire on there to make it so it actually works properly. So I am sort of kind of curious of since it is a brand new locomotive, it is under quote warranty. So I don't know what I can do with it without voiding the warranty. If I do have to change the drivers, that might wind up changing the warranty on it. I never really bothered with warranties when it came to trains. Because a lot of times I buy undecorated ones, so you have to take them apart and put, not necessarily some of them were not necessarily ready to run, so, and I never ran them into the ground, so I'm not too worried about losing the warranty on it. But I gotta find out which Discord channel has somebody that had somehow got very lucky, and then people just kept on giving him the newest version of this locomotive. They usually call it NT, or new tooling. But the thing is that I own a bunch of older ones, and the tooling has changed over the years. So it's one of those things of not necessarily constantly evolving stuff. But all right, well, this is time to consider winding down. Off the power. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm planning on doing. Schedule wise. All I know is that this early morning schedule is just not working for me. And there's a peak of the backdrop that I'm using. So but yeah, the really high production cost of this operation is the way it is. But yeah, I guess working second shift for almost a year now, I am no longer the morning person that I was. So that's why I'm struggling with doing the live stream at this particular point in time. So all right, everyone. I guess I'll end this early because it looks like everyone has left. Maybe, I don't know. I say the thing is, every now and then it goes to 2, so I'm assuming that I'm by myself, and then it bumps up to 5, goes down to 3, goes up to so. YouTube has no clue how many people are on this on the chat, but I'll do my best to keep this schedule at this point in time. But at the same time, don't rely on it because I have a hard time like scheduling ahead of time. It somehow was easier on Sunday night because if I forget, I could schedule Saturday morning and then people will be notified. But since this is Saturday morning, I have a tendency to, I guess, forget and go live like I did today, without without letting people know what's going on, and I'm not getting as many people. But I'm thinking maybe possibly doing this during the weekday. Don't know. One thing I have been doing is that I started up a gym membership. My workplace has a gym that can be used by employees. It's me. The thing is that this other place is like, it's also sort of on the meh side also, but there's a lot more equipment and there's people there. And haven't really talked to anyone at this point, but it's a little bit more social, and eventually once I get more in a routine of it, probably actually start talking to people. Another thing is that, well, not necessarily dating, but there are women there, and it's one of those things of in liking women. It's I wouldn't say motivation to keep going there, but it's a lot better. It's a lot better than working at the gym at the company, because one of the things is that you're by yourself, and I have a hard time motivating myself. This stream at this particular time is a prime example of that. So not really not really that self-motivated. But now that I paying for something and all that, it's like, okay, now I actually probably should be using it. Wound up having to turn around and also buying new shoes because I've lost enough weight where my shoes are not fitting. As I'm sort of sliding. I was a 9 wide, and when I was refitted, they suggested a 9.5 normal to give it a little room, with the toes and all that. And I'm like, I've had a 9 for years and all that, but shoe sizes are very weird. But it's one of those things of going ahead and doing stuff. Taking better care of myself, and going through all the tests to see, hey, it's like, are you am I okay now that I have health insurance? I'm going through having all the tests done to see, it's like, is there anything wrong, and take care of things that oh, okay. But yeah, finding better ways to taking care of myself healthy wise. And I can only say things are probably looking up. But right now, I honestly, it's one of those things of trying to find a different schedule, because I'm no longer a morning person because I've been on second shift for so long, and so it's hard for me to do this now. So it'll be probably much later in the day, wherever that may be. But obviously, it's like when I go live in that winds up, YouTube hopefully will notify everyone. But I'm also assuming that there's going to be a lot of people that will watch this not live. So I might have to change my interaction a little bit, of more of not relying on the live chat, but talking to people who will be watching this later. But on that note, it's almost time for Back on Track. As I said before, I'm no longer aiming to be, in order to get viewers, try to be a unauthorized, unauthorized and unaffiliated news show for a different show. I started, giving up on that. So, well, I would have to say, everyone, thank you for watching. I believe the world needs more love. So find your passion, add some silliness to it, and spread it around.